Hey everybody, how are you doing? Hope you're enjoying your Labor Day weekend. Hey, so today I want to talk to you a little bit about this next chapter we're endeavoring on, and it's explorations. I'm not sure that many of you ever looked at this type of writing, this exploratory writing. It's a little bit unique, and so I want to take you a little bit through this next chapter, which is chapter 22. So let's take a quick look at it here. It's pretty cool. So let's see if I can do this here. Hopefully you can see this. So chapter 22. So this is here in your textbook, chapter 22, exploration. So it's a different kind of writing, and in fact, this is what your first essay is going to look like. And what's kind of cool about it, it uses different perspectives in your writing. It's kind of first person and third person mixed. You're going to be telling a story that's really significant to you, something that has a personal effect on you. So later on this week, in fact, there's another video that's out there that you're going to be thinking about something that's a topic that's just really important to you, something that's had a personal effect on you. And we'll get to that here in a little bit, but this chapter here goes into a little bit about explorations. And in fact, the first, as with all these chapters, it starts with an essay. And this is a story here by a young guy named Brian Deal, who's sharing a story um, actually about dementia and Alzheimer's disease and how it affects his life, especially his grandfather, his granddad. And so he's going to be telling us a story. He's going to be exploring the topic of Alzheimer's and dementia. And so let's look at how he explores this story. Again, remember, this is what you guys are going to be doing here the next few weeks. So here's an example, a really good example of an exploration piece on dementia. Again, the topic of dementia and Alzheimer's. So let's look at how this guy kind of does it. I'm not going to read word for word, but just kind of show you kind of the structure of this particular paper. So this is a story called Talking with Granddad. And by the way, one of the things I want to point out to you is the title. Later on, in fact, one of your readings this week is going to talk about something on titles. Titles are really important, right? Just the title alone of this piece, Talking with Granddad, it's really important. You're not going to ever want to title an essay something like, Essay One or Exploration Essay or something like that, right? Because that doesn't tell you anything, you know? But Talking with Granddad, I mean, just the title alone here kind of lets everybody know that this essay was going to be about this person talking with his granddad, talking with his grandfather. So just the title kind of tells you something. So be thinking about that whenever you title a paper, title anything, that the titles are important. So this title here, title alone, is very important. Always use good descriptive titles. So here we go. So talking with granddad. So this first part of this story here is very narrative. In fact, the paper you're going to be next week, you're going to be working on some narrative writing, and you'll notice the first part of the story is very detailed. It's very detailed. A lot of descriptive words, kind of makes you feel as if you're there with this guy, Brian. Um, so look at how he writes. Just pay attention to kind of the nice descriptive language and details he's used in when he goes to visit his granddad, right? So look, an overcast sky chokes the usual radiant light of summer on the Sunday afternoon. An ironic backdrop to the sign in front of me, which reads, Sunrise on the Scioto. Upon entering the nursing home's lobby, I've met with a clash of two scents, the buttery aroma of nearby popcorn machine and that distinct old people smell. So, I mean, just those first couple of sentences, I mean, doesn't that make you feel like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been in like an old folks home before, but that's a perfect description of it, right? I mean, have you ever been in one, right? There's that buttery smell of those popcorn machines, right? You all know that smell. You just kind of smell it right there. And then, of course, those old people, that old people smell, right? Who can miss it? If you ever walk into one of those old folks' homes, it's got that distinct smell. So the description alone is just really, really perfect. Really, really nice. You know exactly where this guy is. He's in an old folks home. And then going on here, right? Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. There's no answer. And he sees this man slouched in his bed watching a televised college football game. Hey, granddad, it's me. And then, uh, and then the grandfather looks at him. Hey, I'm Brian, your grandson. And then so here's this dialogue of him, Brian, talking to his granddad. And and it's actually kind of sad, right? Later on when we hear about this dementia thing, maybe some of you can relate to this. Maybe you had a relative who's had dementia, Alzheimer's, but you can kind of get the sense that this grandfather's not quite recognizing him here. Um, I'm Brian, your grandson. And the scruff around his face rises, revealing a smile of recognition. Yes, he responds. How have you been holding up? I ask. The drone of the TV fills the silence. Hey, I have a girlfriend now. You want to see her? Would you like to see her? And he brings the image of his phone closer to him. After some scrutiny, he exclaims, well, I'll be damned. Has Grandma stopped by recently? Well, I'll be damned. And he repeats this phrase after every question. After a while, I lightly wrap my arms around his motionless body and we part ways. So just that little paragraph alone just really sort of encapsulates just that whole scene, right? We can all sort of envision that. Again, maybe some of us have experienced this, visiting an old relative who might not quite recognize us, especially, right? Can you imagine showing like a boyfriend or a girlfriend on a phone to an old person and this old person staring at it? It's like, I'll be damned. I'll be damned. Trying to show them like your girlfriend or boyfriend on the phone, right? Can you imagine them seeing that? And not quite recognize it, right? And it's just kind of a sad thing. And so anyway, so that's the first part. Again, notice the detail on this narrative part. And then right after that, he goes into this, what we call the research part of it, the research part. So now he's going to tell everybody exactly what's going on here. You'll notice kind of the shift in like the point of view and all that, right? Kind of a shift in the language and everything else. For the longest time, there's been no medical phenomenon more intriguing to me than dementia. One may be familiar with Alzheimer's disease, the most common type of dementia characterized by plaques and tangles that spread throughout the brain, destroying tissue and eventually affecting memory, language, and other neurological functions. Right? And then do you see this thing here, this little guy in parentheses? You all know what that is? Any of you guys ever see that before? That word dementia in quotation marks in parentheses. Some of you ever see that before? I can hear some people calling things out now through my microphone. What that is an in-text citation. It's an in-text citation. And there's a few of these going down. So what he's doing now is now he's telling his audience everything there is to know about dementia and Alzheimer's disease. This is what we call, this is like the research element of an exploratory paper. All right, he's already kind of done some one-on-one interviewing with his grandfather, and now he's going into the research part. Now he's actually telling us, the really interesting part or the informative part of this topic, in this case, dementia. And he's having to look stuff up, right? Because most people don't know, you know, that dementia is characterized by plaques and tangles and the spread throughout the brain, destroying tissue and eventually affecting memory, language, and other neurological functions, right? People kind of generally have to look that up somewhere. In this case, and we'll find this out later, he looked it up in some article called Dementia. That's why he's acknowledging this source. Again, some of you might already know this, but we're going to study this stuff a little bit later. He had to look this up in some academic article somewhere. So the rest of this paper essentially, or this article, is now he's going to tell us everything there is to know about Alzheimer's and dementia. So you can read the rest of this section on your own. It kind of tells you a little bit about exploratory essays and writing and what you need to do about it. But I wanted to kind of show you the structure of this and what we're going to be working on. But the part to really know is the structure, how explorations work. finding a topic that you're really, really interested in, something that has a personal effect on you. And again, look at this one, right? Dementia, Alzheimer's really affects this guy because how it's personally connected with him and his grandfather, a family member. And then he goes on to research it. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to think of a topic that really, really interests you, how it has a personal connection to you, and then you're going to do some research on it. Okay, that kind of makes sense. So, go through the rest of this chapter. It's very, very short, and it's going to tell you a little bit about more about, you know, um, what makes up an exploratory type writing and all that kind of stuff. We're certainly going to be studying it, for the next several weeks, and talk some more about it. But this is all there is to know about this whole exploratory writing. Again, some of the projects we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks have to deal with this kind of stuff, but look at this essay carefully because we're going to be doing a lot of writing on this kind of stuff. We're going to take it apart in sections. So the first thing we're going to be doing next week is this whole kind of narrative part, the narrative part. So think about that. But this is the first big paper we're going to be doing is this exploratory type writing. Okay? So hope this helps. Enjoy this section. Be thinking of a topic to write, and we'll be talking with you all later. All right? Take care, everybody, and we'll see you soon.